Okay, hi. I'm gonna make this video just to answer a question from my friend William, who recently saw an email that I did. I'm a professional musician. Last year I did 533 gigs. This year I'm going for 1,000. I don't know if I'll make 1,000 this year, but just because I'm not on target. But I think within the next year from now I can make 1,000 gigs from now in the next year. But anyway, I made, I have a pretty decent income from that. I made over 6 figures last year, mostly from gigging too. And I think, so I want to do this video because William asked me how do I do it, and so I want to tell people how I do it because I think it's awesome to be a musician, and I love to play live. And it's funny to me. I even see there's a lot of stuff going around on the internet about how you can't make money playing live, or it's not great. And I go, wow, I don't think that person plays live, or whoever's saying that you can't make money playing music live. Anyway, it doesn't even matter because you can. And William asked me to tell what are the top, 10 steps to be able to make a good living as a musician. Okay, so now here are the 10 steps. Now I got to tell you this, that this isn't like an instant thing. Like, it didn't happen for me instantly. It took me about maybe 3 years to get up to 35,000, and then and then it took me maybe 5 years to get up to 50,000, 55, 60,000, and then but then I built it up there. But I'll also tell you this: when I took me 3 years while I was working another job full time, 35 hours, 30 to 35 hours or more every single week. So while I was doing that full time, I also got my income from music up to 35,000 at the same time. So anyway, I'm bringing that up because I think that would be my very first thing. That I think the very number one, change your mind about it, because I think there's a lot of people have these considerations and ideas that you can't do it. I mean, you hear it all the time. You can't listen to that. You can't. I mean, you can listen to anything that you want to listen to, but if you want to do this, I'm telling you, I don't listen to it. As a matter of fact, when people tell me, I talk to other musicians, they say, oh man, there's not as many gigs as there used to be. I'm like, I don't know, man. First thing, change your mind. Let me point out this one thing to you, and that is that, wherever you live, I mean, I happen to live in Los Angeles, and it's in the Los Angeles area, there are 15 million people in the greater Los Angeles area. Okay, so now the first thing about changing your mind is a realization. The first thing is realizing how many of those 15 million people like music. And okay, the answer is every single one of them. So the first thing you have to realize is everybody likes music, and how many people would like to hear music live every day? And I think everybody would. And you have to realize that there are, thousands of opportunities to play live music. Now, no matter what you may have heard, no matter what, what the consensus is, or I don't know, like I've heard this around various people, various people on the internet doing different marketing things in it. And it's true that, whatever system that they have is very good for what they do. But the fact that, saying that you can't make music playing live is just not true. Okay, so change your mind. There are millions of gigs. And I mean, whenever anybody starts telling me that there just aren't a lot of gigs, I mean, I look at the reality of it, which is out of 15 million people, I mean, I don't know how many weddings there are going on in Los Angeles every single week. If maybe somebody wants to Google it, or you want to Google it or check it out or whatever, post it in the comments. There are a lot. There are a lot of weddings. People are having private parties. There are corporate functions. There are restaurants, bars. There are different venues. There are, lots of senior living venues. There are just, just scads of opportunities to play music live, and thousands of them. And I guarantee you that, that's the first thing you need to do is realize or change your mind about it. There are many opportunities. You could create opportunities to play live. I mean, I do create opportunities to play live, and I play live all the time. I mean, my current target is I'm trying to make 20 gigs every single week. There are other things that I consider a gig which aren't necessarily playing live, but I can, that's a little bit technical, but maybe I'll just tell you what I consider a gig. A gig is like when I go out and play for someone, that's a gig. If I go out and play at a senior living venue, that's a gig. If I go to a restaurant and play at a restaurant, that's a gig. If I go to play a wedding, it's a gig. If I go to a private party or whatever. Now, sometimes people hire me to do recording sessions, and a recording session, start to finish, it's done, that's a gig. So sometimes I'm doing a recording session and it's a project. If I have a project, somebody hires me to create a track for them. If it takes me 2 weeks to create the track, I don't count it as a gig. Every time I work on it, I count it as when I finish it, that's done, that's a gig. So those are just some of the different things that I do. But the first thing is realizing that there are tons of opportunities to make income as a musician, and to and to provide music for people, and they are very happily will exchange with you because it's a very valuable thing to people. That's another thing, I guess, a part of changing your mind is realizing that a musician, what you're offering art, you're offering beauty, you're offering something outstandingly amazing for people. And it's a very, very good thing to offer. The world needs more beauty, it needs more art, and you need to keep that in mind. I mean, you need to, that is a very good purpose for you to have. So, change your mind. There are gigs. Music is very valuable. It's worth it, people exchanging for. They should, and they do all the time. So, the next point that I wanted to make is when you get a request for somebody that's interested in hiring you, the very thing you should do is answer the phone, and you should answer the phone as fast as possible. You should get back to the person. You should recognize when somebody's trying to hire you. Somebody calling you and saying, "Are you available?" That's an instant answer the phone, get back to the person right away, right this second kind of thing, because that's something that I've found very interesting because I hire a lot of musicians. There are a lot of musicians hey, are you available to do a gig, blah, blah, blah. And I don't hear back from them for days. And I'm thinking, man, when I have a gig that I want to book someone on, I want to book it right now. So the faster that you can get back to a person that's interested, if somebody's ever interested in hiring you, that needs to be as close to instant as you possibly can. So that's the first thing. Answer your phone, answer your email. This is a dumb thing, but I've noticed it on a lot of people, and that is, it blocks me, for me, if my internet's, if I don't have an internet access, or if my phone messages get full, that's, people could be trying to call you and leave you messages about possible gigs, and you're not even getting them because it won't leave a message if your phone is full. So, keep your phone clear of messages so that you can receive calls. That's super important. And answer them right away. Fast, fast, fast. Okay. The next thing is, this is number 2, I guess, or number 3. Number 3. So, that you need to tell everyone that you know what you do. You need to tell them that you're available. You need to tell them, that you're available to play parties, you play whatever you do as a musician. You need to tell them. And I mean, to start telling people. And I mean, literally, you should, get in the habit of telling people, I am a musician, I play professionally. And if, the more, look at it this way. even give yourself a statistic or something, like you monitor it. How many people did you mention today that you're a musician, that you are available, that you love to play music, that you know what you can do? Tell people what you do. Now, that's going right into number 4. Number 4 is to make a list. Now, make a list. Now, there are many possible ways to make a list. I'm going to just take the simplest thing that I can think of, and that is to take your phone and you have contacts, and anyone, like if you're able to do gigs, like if you're able to do production, if you're able to produce music for, for tracks, or produce music for whatever, and you can do that, then literally there shouldn't be anybody. You should have however many people you have in your phone, you should be able to either call those people or text them, or if you have emails for them. But every single person in your phone, you should tell them that what you do. I play the piano, like, for me, I play the piano and I sing, and I'm available. I play in bands, I play solo, whatever it is that you do, you have to tell people what you do. Now that sounds like too simple, but I'm telling you, it's a numbers game, it's a volume, and it's, okay, now this part of it is sort of like the Gary V part of it, of like, okay, this is the, the part where, you gotta talk to people, you gotta just sit on your phone and text every single person, and I'm serious, like every single person in your phone, and say, hey, I'm available for gigs if you hear of anything. Now you don't have to, I think it would be a very smart thing for you to do. That is, like, don't say, hey, I need a gig, I need gigs from you, but you could say something like, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but I play the guitar, and I play for parties, and I play for weddings, and I play for this, and I'm available for all kinds of different things, and tell people what you do. But now we're into the specific thing of making a list and then going down that list and telling every single person. Now, here's another idea. If you're on Facebook, which I think, probably, if you're alive currently, you're probably on Facebook. So you have friends. So you actually can do you can post it on your Facebook page, but that might be another thing. That's more of a promotional thing. This is like telling people what you do. This is like, going on Facebook and Messenger. You go into Messenger and you go, you say, hey, I'm just telling everybody that I know, I'm just reminding them that this is what I do and this is what I'd like to do. The other thing that's really great on that one is that, for instance, if you just played an amazing gig, or you just, or the last gig that you played, tell them about that. Like, for instance, recently I played this gig, blah, 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 and tell them about it. And so now you're telling everybody in your phone, you're going on Facebook. Now, I would also recommend that you send out an email and I think the interesting thing is, for me, like sometimes, I do send out an email every single week to everybody on my mailing list, and I think that is super, super important. And I would recommend the way you start your email list is just take every single email that you have and just send an email. Don't blind copy. I think you should blind copy everybody. Don't send their email where people can see it, but but send it, blind copy everybody's email, and just send out an email to everybody and say, this is my newsletter, and tell them what you've been doing musically and your fun stuff that you've worked on recently and where you're going to be playing, and anything like that that's interesting. Here's where you can, some of the stuff that I've recorded, or I have YouTube videos, and tell people like how they can get interact with you as an artist. And obviously you don't want to spam anyone. So you want to make that in such a way that you can tell people, hey, I'm going to send out this email, and if you don't want to be on the email list, just let me know, or just You can, just tell me and I'll unsubscribe you from this email list. And but even if you unsubscribe them from your newsletter, you can still email them personally, and just ask them if they've heard of anything. They can think of any venues, they know of anyone that's looking for a guitar player, piano player, whatever you do. Okay, so you have phone, you have everybody on Facebook, you have like, for instance, if you're on Instagram, you could do direct messages, like you can do individual messages to anybody. You can actually, make a list. So you're making a list of from your phone, your emails, people that you know, and just telling them, tell them. The next, so this is also tell people, it's make a list, and then the next step is you will need to constantly outflow. You will need to constantly tell as many people as you can in as many interesting ways that you can. And I try to make it really cool and really upbeat and amazing and really beautiful. Like, I try to, I read this something where somebody was talking about, promotion. They say, well, a lot of artists will really get serious about writing their song and they'll spend months on it, but then, what about your promotion? And they brush it off. And I go, wow, but actually it's a creative thing. It can be very beautiful. You have to be very creative about how do you say what you do, and how do you tell people what you do, and in a way that they would like to hear it. Yes, that can take some, you have to sort of think to yourself, like, well, how can that be done? Maybe, I can do a whole video on that or whatever. But anyway, so the main thing is outflow. Now, okay, the next step is whenever you get a response, you need to answer that response super fast. And I cannot, it should be instant. Like, I'm on a bunch of other, websites where you book gigs, and they tell you the first person that responds usually books the gig. And if this is true for you, I don't care, somebody gets, is looking for somebody for a party, they might be calling 5 people, or somebody calls you up, hey, could you sub me for this gig or whatever? Could you, I can't do the gig, could you do it for me? And they're freaking out. They're trying to find somebody really fast. You need to answer that phone. You need to handle your responses so fast. And I cannot stress that enough. Speed. You need to, you cannot answer that too fast. I've lost gigs where I answered it, 10 minutes after I got the call, and they'd already booked 3 people, before me or whatever. So it's a very, so you just need to be on top of it. So you respond fast. The next thing is, now this sounds a lot like whatever number it was, but the next one is, this is number 7, find more venues. Find, in other words, create more lists. Okay, here's, so one of the things I've done is I've gone on Yelp, for instance, and I've just found, like you put in their search live music from wherever your zip code is, and you'll get a list of all the venues. Man, just pick up, you go to the first venue and you call them up and say, hey, this is me, and this is what I do. Who books the music? You want to find the person who books it. That's pretty important. Find the guy who books the gig. And then, because you can end up telling the person that answered the phone, and they go, oh, well, the boss that books the music is not here, and he only comes Thursdays or whatever, and that guy's never going to remember. So anyway, find the person that books the gigs, talk to them, get their email, start a list of every single phone number and every single email of every single possible place that you can play. You could have hundreds of places on that list. You could have hundreds, Anyway, so like for instance, if you like doing standards like older music that older people might really enjoy, then you can go play at senior living venues, and that's a super lot of fun to do. And you just get a list of senior living venues and you start calling them up and saying, hey, I'd love to play for you guys. So this one is finding more venues, making more lists, and then contacting them like crazy. Okay, that's number 7. The next one is musicians. It's called, I put down networking, but I don't know that it's necessarily, I would call it's very specific kind of networking. This is a network where you're asking every musician if they know of any gigs. Now, I'm going to say this, that there's 2 flows on this. There's the flow of like, hey, have you heard of anything? Do you know anybody that's looking for, a piano player, or guitar player, whatever it is that you are, that, do you know of any venues, anybody looking? Do you have, if you're a guitar player and you sing, so you call every guitar player that sings that or you text them and you say, if you need help covering your gig, I could do it for you, let me know, that kind of thing. But then of course, you need to know the repertoire, and you need to know the kind of music that they do on that gig. And maybe that should be an earlier step, and that should be, but you know what? It doesn't need to be an earlier step. I'm going to make that a later step. So you're going to network with musicians. You're going to contact them. And then also, then the next thing I was going to tell you about is there are a bunch of websites that book gigs. And the 2 that I have used the most with the most success is Yelp. I'm sorry, not Yelp. The 2 that I've used, Gigsalad and Gigmasters. Both Gigsalad and Gigmasters have been very good for me. And it's not like I book any kind of majority of my gigs from them, but I get regular gigs, and it's more what I've invested in them. Has been good for me. In other words, whatever it is, $150 or, for 6 months or a year, I don't even remember. But whatever it is, you make that back in one gig if you book it. And I always book 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 or a lot more gigs from them than I pay in. So there's more sites that of, but those are the 2. Gigsalad, Gigmasters have been really, really good for me. Then the next one, which is number 10, is I would put a Yelp page and have a Yelp page for yourself as a musician and what you do if you play, and you set up a Yelp page as a business. It's a business Yelp page. You set it up for you, and and then every time you work for people, you let them know that you have a Yelp page, and that, if you can leave them if they can do a review for you, that would be very helpful or whatever. So anyway, okay, so those are my top 10. If you do, I'm going to just tell you, if you do all of that stuff that I just said, you will have no problem getting tons of gigs. Now, it may take you a while to build up a head of steam, but not necessarily. I literally was working 35 hours a week at another job when I started, from, maybe doing, I don't know how many gigs I was doing a year, 20, and I built it up to where I was making 35,000, and, it took me maybe 3 years to do that, 2 or 3 years, something like that. Anyway, so hope that answers your question, at least gives you the tip of the iceberg. I realize it's a lot of information. It might be overwhelming. Don't let it be overwhelming. Just do one thing at a time. Just one thing at a time. Do the first thing, change your mind, and answer your phone, and then start telling people. Just take it that far. Just tell people. When you've got that in hand, try the next step. Probably what I'll do is I'll post those things in the comments, or not in the comments, in the description box. I'll post all of those things, like what the 10 steps are. And then what would help me is if you have questions on any one of the steps, or you think, oh, this is just like, doesn't make sense to me, or I'm leaving something out, which I might very well be doing because I'm just doing this very off the top of my head. So if I'm leaving anything out, or you need more information about any aspect of what I said, let me know in the comments. And I will, I totally would love to, I've got a lot of information about it. I've been very successful. I mean, I've been somewhat successful at it. I mean, I don't want to blow it out of proportion, because I think I could be doing 2 or 3 times as much production as I'm doing easily. And that's what I'm working on every day. I'm trying to bump it up. But anyway, I can tell you all about that too. So hope that helps. Let me know how I can help you, and I hope you were able to understand. Anyway, see you in the next one.